must stand firm against any and all arbitrary authority that threatens the personal sovereignty of one or all. That which will not bend must break, and that which can be destroyed by truth should never be spared its demise. It is done. Hail Satan.
Welcome, everybody, once again to another episode of Satanic Study Hall. We are on episode number 20 or something, and we're going to keep on fucking going. Class is officially in session. My name is Bill, and I am a member of the Satanic Temple. I am joined by a couple of these guys. Who's next?
Hi, my name is Dennis Morningstar, and I'm a member of the Satanic Temple.
Hi, I'm Veronica, the valedictorian. I am most definitely not a member of the Satanic Temple, but I'm heavily aligned with their 7 tenets.
God damn.
I like how you did that, Veronica.
Yeah.
And our special guest stopping by Study Hall today. Welcome, Simon.
Thank you for having me, guys. Honestly, I've been looking forward to this. It's awesome. I'm here.
So what is Satanic Study Hall? Satanic Study Hall is a podcast where we talk about Satanism from its inception to modern day. We cover Satanism in news, entertainment, pop culture in general, but more specifically in music and movies and books and written works. We're seeing a good fucking deal of that in our Discord Goat Farm community, which is awesome. But that's kind of who we are. We try to incorporate Satanism in some of the shit we talk about, and some of the stuff that we talk about has absolutely nothing to do with it. And that is okay, because ingesting your religion 7 days a week fucking sucks, and it's not supposed to be that way. But nonetheless, if you want to get in touch with the podcast, the best way to get in touch with us is satanicstudyhall@gmail.com. If you want to consider supporting the podcast, you can do so at patreon.com/satanicstudyhall. We do have 3 different options where you could choose to support us. One is $3.33 a month. The other $6.66 a month. And our third is what I always call our super fucking satanic VIP level. That's $20 a month. And your money goes to, I don't know, beer and pizza. No, it really doesn't. It goes to supporting this awesome little machine that we have going right now. Keeps the podcast moving forward. We just appreciate you just thinking of us when it comes to where you want to put some of your contributions in life. So thank you to everybody that's currently there, and thank you to anybody that's considered it or just fucking for being here. Our listener base has expanded, downloads kind of blew up, and I think we have some, I don't know who's going to stick around, but we might have gained some new listeners with all of this Satanism trending in mass media.
Did anybody get a hands on those shoes?
No, they never came out. Never came out. You can get a pair of the Walk on Water Jesus shoes, though. I believe they do exist. They might even have the Nike license.
Are they sandals?
No, no, they're weird. Apparently, there's holy water in the base of them, and you can see it. It's like, and then they're all white.
That's
and
black.
They're all white, and then you've got a Bible verse like John 3:16 stitched into the side of it, and then there's some other weird little religious emblem. But yeah, I believe those really exist, but I'll have to confirm that, or have one of the listeners fact check me and let me know if it's really a thing or just some bullshit I saw. Couple things we are going to get out of the way before we get to know our special guest a little bit here. And real quick, I do want to ask anybody that happens to be listening to Satanic Study Hall on the Apple Podcast platform, throw us a review. Or if you just have an iTunes or Apple account and you find yourself somewhat enjoying what we're doing here, let us know on Apple Podcast. It does help more like-minded individuals like us. It does help the podcast reach people. And that's kind of what we're aiming for. It's always good to not only just expand our reach, but we believe in what we're doing here. Not only are we having fun, but we're also learning and, just, I don't know, building bridges. Let us know, Apple Podcasts, if you have the ability, throw us a review and some stars and let us know what you think. Our friends over at Misty's Coventry, Sean, definitely want to shout him out. If you want to check out some cool occult items, you can search Misty's Coventry. That's MHISTYS Coventry. That's the most recent stuff. I believe the postings are more on eBay, but Misty's Coventry is across all forms of social media. And of course, Rhett, still pumping out designs and all these new options and keeping the product line fresh over at darkartdepository.com. Rhett is the man. Check him out. Support what he's doing.
I'll talk up my Hail Thyself shirt every day. I've gotten so many, it started so many conversations. Actually, I didn't think that, I picked it because it was simple and it was classy, which that's fine. If that's not your taste, that's not your taste. It's fine. But I liked the shirt for that reason. But people still came up to me and said, Hail Thyself. Like, what is that? And then I'm like, oh, good. I get to explain now. So it's great. Go check out his store.
So Veronica, how about you continue? How about you kick us off today? How are you now?
Me, I'm good. I'm doing very well. I'm still a little bit, overworked. Big life adjustment, but we go through them. I am trying, I'm noticing in my daily life, trying to apply the tenets more and more. I mean, I did before sporadically and definitely around the months where I was just starting to learn them, but now I'm kind of cognitively aware of when I go to make a decision or say yes to something, I'm stopping a lot more and I'm thinking. So it's just, I don't know. I feel like life has changed so much. Now, whenever I'm met with a decision, I don't know, the tenets are there. Does that sound weird?
It doesn't sound weird.
It's just something I'm noticing.
It also, shit like this happens as you get older, I've got to say. It really does. Like, you find yourself looking a little deeper inside and pausing and not being so impulsive, I think, just naturally as you get older. Just at least from my perspective. But I mean, it's definitely, it feels good, but it's also annoying as fuck. There's a lot of times, like, even since I found Satanic Temple and the tenets, where I've wanted to be a fucking dick. But I just kind of stopped and I overanalyzed and I thought about it. But then there's the times you really kick yourself in the ass, like we were talking about before, when you don't stick up for yourself, like out of trying to live the tenets. Like, that's some bullshit. I don't think you should take it that far.
Yeah. That's mainly what it is. It's kind of like being at these crossroads of, saying yes or no to something. And then when you have said yes and you're in the act of performing whatever it is you said yes to, you're kind of looking at it like, you know what, I'm a good Satanist right now. Like, I'm being a good Satanist right now. And I mean, it's just something that I didn't used to think about before, but it is also, like you said, just at that question stage, yes or no. All right, I'm saying no. And here's why I'm saying no. And here's what I can apply to it to know that I'm not making a selfish decision right now. So
that's so weird that you say, I'm trying to be I'm being a good Satanist right now. I want to be a good Satanist right now. That resonates with what I remember my grandmother saying when I was growing up about being a good Christian woman. Like, I got to be a good Christian woman. I got to be a good Christian. It's all about being the best Christian woman you can be. And it's all, and like she would say that over and over again. And here we are as Satanists, like, oh, she's probably rolling over right now. But but here's the thing. It's all the same thing. Like, her ideals and versions of being a good Christian woman at their core, from my experiences with her, were just in line with trying to be a good fucking person.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm doing the same exact thing. It's just, under a different fucking, the umbrella that's over me is a little bit more transparent, I guess I should say.
Right.
Dennis, how are you now?
I'm doing well, man. I'm doing well. I'm hanging in there. Counting down the minutes, really, till I leave for Salem. It's 2 days, really. I'm going to be there for a few days, and then I leave from there to go to Albany for a few days, and then unfortunately back here. Hopefully not for that much longer, though.
Mr. Simon, how are you now?
I'm good. I've got a sore arm from the first COVID, COVID jab on Sunday. Apart from that, no side effects. Hail fucking science.
Fuck yes.
I'm feeling good. Jet lag's kicking in a bit, but it's just one of those things. Just power through it.
That's right. They make caffeine and multivitamins for it, I'd like to say. Well, good. Glad to hear everyone's doing good. I will fall in line and kind of say the same thing. I think being good is all about mindset, as you've heard me say time and time again. Pushing for a career change, still riding that wave and fingers crossed and trying to find the right fit. But I finally settled in my head and put a little bit more monetary value on my time. So taking a little bit of a pay cut in the interim for more quality of life is kind of the direction that I'm going. So hail thyself, hail intelligent decision making, and
hail sanity.
Yes, hail sanity. But other than that, progress is being made, and I guess that's how I'm doing. I guess one more thing we should probably talk about: the success of the Baphomet Things Happen in Philadelphia fundraiser. You've heard the episode, or hopefully you've heard the episode. If you haven't, there's an episode titled Baphomet Things Happen in Philadelphia, and it was centered around bringing our friend Ruby from Love City Satanists in to talk about the fundraiser that they were making. Now, it wasn't just a typical fundraiser, donate and we're done. Some amazing fucking artists stepped up, including our own valedictorian here, and donated their time and their work and their resources. Tattoo artists, photographers, you name it, people donating services. The initial goal was $3,333, but through the persistence and the support, they more than doubled that goal. They set their little BHAG it's the nerd term, big, hairy, audacious goal of $6,666, and they beat it. And at that point, I think everybody was exhausted and tired and was like, you know what? We did this and we knocked it out of the park and we set the new record. And I believe they did set the new record for our Friends of group. And this was the last little step before hitting chapter, or I guess I should say congregation status. But I think it works out anyways. So congratulations to Philadelphia and Jack and Erie and everybody that was on, that fundraising committee that made it happen. And thank you to all of our listeners who supported it. Holy shit. Some of the pictures and the satanic swag that was shared with us on social media that came directly from this fundraising campaign was amazing. Hail all of you for supporting such a good cause. And the money did go right directly to the Satanic Temple to support their legal initiatives and everything that they're working on there. So today in Study Hall, we are joined by poet and activist Simon Widdop. Hailing from Wakefield, West Yorkshire, award-winning poet Simon Widdop writes and performs poetry that blends a hectic mix of keen-eyed macabre, a dash of dark humor, and a warm sense of pride of his northern roots. His debut one-man show, Stained, won the Hive Award at Greater Manchester Fringe in 2019. Stained tells the story of tattoo artist Johnny Deaton and his journey in opening his studio, Low Voltage. The show deals with the subject of tattoo and body modification culture, mental health, abuse, and consent. Simon's debut poetry collection, Sending a Drunk Text While Sober, was released in April 2018 by Plastic Brain Press. In addition, he has also been published in print in the New River Press Yearbook in 2017-2018, Paper and Ink Zine, Glove Zine, We Shall Overcome, the anthology, and Nymphs and Thugs Soapbox, as well as online at Dryland Lit Press. Over the years, Simon has performed across the nation at nationally recognized poetry events and festivals, was a Leeds Leader Poet in 2018, supported Sabrina Benaim on her UK tour in 2018, and was commissioned to curate the spoken word stage at Long Division Festival the same year. He has opened for several bands, including the Tuts and Joe Solo. So I guess without wasting any more time, welcome to fucking Satanic Study Hall, Simon. It's good to have you here.
Fucking cheers for having me, boys and girls and everyone in between. It's awesome. I'm here.
Yes, and this has been in the works. Scheduling and just life and holidays and family is crazy, but I'm really excited that we made it happen. And you've been a supporter of the show ever since we emerged out of thin air last July, and we can't thank you enough for just helping us spread the word and sharing our material and participating in the goat farm communities. It's been great. Not to mention, it's, you've got a little bit of celebrity status. I mean, you've been on all the major satanic podcasts, and just Google searching Simon Widdop is, that's, all you get is your work. There's not many other Simon Widdops out there. You really get a good sense of, what your work is and the things that you're passionate about. Just searching your name, and you've got a really solid presence. So I know Veronica was excited. She's a fucking nerd.
Yes, that's why I was excited. No, I couldn't wait to have you on, Simon.
Tell us about who Simon is in today's world. What are you passionate about? What keeps you moving forward?
So, I mean, at the moment, I'm in this weird limbo because the second collection, Poet from the Black Lagoon, we released that last October. I know we're going to come on to that a little bit later, but it's just weird because normally by now I would have not so much been on tour, but I'd have been sort of out and about, really getting the book out there. But 2020 was the shit show that it turned into. So we still decided to release the book because we thought, well, something positive needs to come, because I know for you guys over there, the whole lockdown situations were so weird. They were even weirder over here. We had some parts of the country where we couldn't leave certain cities, certain regions, but yet other areas of the country were fine to move around, and everything's been put on hold. So it's just weird. That's why for anyone that's listening that has bought the book so far, thank you so much, because we've had some figures in just a couple of weeks ago, and I really am blown away by the support that the book's had, to say that it's had a bit of an unconventional release. Yeah, the rest of it, I'm just going to keep plugging the book. There's some other looser writing happening, but I want to make sure that this second child, this second baby is given the love and care that it needs.
Amen.
Well, what was childhood like? From where exactly did you grow up? Things like what your relationship with your parents might have been, anything you're comfortable with sharing as far as,
So for me, I was brought up in a little market town just outside of Wakefield, which we're in West Yorkshire. In one direction, you've got Patrick Stewart's hometown. If you go down the motorway, you've got Sean Bean's hometown. If you go the other way, Saxon, the heavy metal band Saxon, they're from the other direction. And then from my city, there's an indie punk band called The Cribs, who I think they did make it in America a little bit. So it's weird that there's a hell of a lot of music that's been sort of around me growing up. And I think that's what's reflected a lot more in my writing. My mum was a punk who was into ABBA. So that's two hectic mixes straight there. My dad sort of gave me rock, heavy metal. At the same time, growing up in the 90s, we had Britpop. So I've got Oasis, Pulp, Blur, Spice Girls, on top of everything from the 80s into the 2000s. There was just so much music and song and life. Growing up in Blair's, Britain, and, going through or witnessing the Iraq War and sort of how that shaped politics over here, and then the shit show that we've had for the past 10 years with the current regime. Things were good. School were fine. We have this thing over here where we have a lot of schools that are what we call Church of England, which you get some sort of religious indoctrination from a very young age. But you can sort of tell the teachers, a lot of them don't want to do it. It's just they have to do it as part of the job. So every morning when you go to an assembly, you sort of sat there singing hymns, doing prayers, being thankful to the Lord and stuff like that. But there's nothing to really challenge that. There's nothing to really push back, apart from now a lot of the school system's changed. A lot of them have now become academies. So they've started to phase a lot of it out, or they've been pushed into more being multi-faith.
Right.
And incorporating everybody, not just the baby Jesus. It's something that I've spoken about with my parents. It's really weird over here, especially for a lot of us that were born in the 90s, because we had a generation where, so I was christened and my younger brother were christened. And I've asked why that happened. And my mum just sort of said, well, it was just the done thing. We just did it because her mum and dad did it, and their mum and dad did it. It's something that sort of happened with people not really thinking about it. And we still have the whole people want to get married in church. So if there were any family weddings or any christenings, we sort of went, but you were sort of sat there going, well, I'm just sort of here in a church. And again, mixing that with a Church of England upbringing as well, you were sort of sat there, especially during hymns, you were taking the piss, you were making your own lyrics up and sniggering at the back of the hall, sort of going along. And that's really been about it. I think I started questioning a lot of things as I got older. A few things changed, which then led me to where I am.
Okay, so I mean, so that's cool. You're like,
yeah.
So you kind of came from, you're not the generation that it's kind of like originally looking back and saying, okay, well, the only reason we're doing this is because, you know, this generation did it and they passed it on and this passed it on. You're kind of coming right off of the generation that acknowledged that first, right?
Yeah,
right.
And I think our generation now, this millennial generation, especially into is it Gen Z, the next ones? I think we are just sort of past it now, and we're just like, okay, we're not really going to christen our kids now. If they want to make that choice later on, that's their choice.
What was your initial exposure to Satanism, and what captivated you?
So I'm going to sound cliche as fuck with this, but I was 16 when I first read the Satanic Bible.
It's a prerequisite.
It is, especially there were a group of us that all used to hang out, listening to heavy metal and just trading MP3s between each other. And we sort of heard about, the Satanic Bible. And, this is 2006. The internet isn't really what it is now. And a couple of us went out and actually bought a copy. And there is, if you sort of speak to any UK Satanist, the big chain bookshop over here is Waterstones. You can walk into any Waterstones in this country and there will only ever be one copy of the Satanic Bible. No matter where you are, you will only ever find one copy. So I sort of, we all have to wait a week between us to buy a copy and stuff like that. And I read it when I was 16 and I just didn't get it. I don't know what it was, just at that time, it just didn't click. I can't quite put my finger on what it was, but just it was interesting. I kind of understood a little bit, but just nothing really spoke to me.
What about TST? How did you initially find TST?
So, this is where I think my journey, it really did take its own. It was a couple of years ago. I decided to reread the Satanic Bible, I think about 2 years ago, 3 years ago now. And it made sense, finally. Something just finally clicked, and obviously reading and understanding, right, okay, I am worth something. I can put value on me. In that gap between 16 and sort of 28, 29, I got into politics. I'm very left-leaning. I'm very socialist in my views. That's because of, again, what we've had over in the past 10 years with government austerity. I have seen communities decimated. I support food banks as and where I can, because in this country, we now have more food banks than McDonald's restaurants. So that was the only thing that didn't quite click. That obviously LeVay was saying, you've got to look after you. Well, I can't do that because I'm so involved with community and community building. So then when I sort of looked at TST, because I remember the pink mass happening, and then I remember the whole thing with the Sabrina show and stuff like that, I went and watched Hail Satan. And that's, again, that everything just clicked. It all just lined up. I'm like, these people are speaking to me because I can now put myself first and not be ashamed to put myself first, but I can still support others. And everything just fell into place, and I've not looked back.
Just to kind of jump in from something that you said there. Now, One thing that has come up a lot in the goat farm or individual conversations that we have amongst each other is finding a balance. And what I mean by a balance is you talked about how, passionate you were and how that whole look out for yourself type of deal didn't necessarily work for you. How do you balance solitary Satanism with the more religious or communal aspect of things? I know that can be a challenge depending upon, how an individual was introduced to Satanism. Quick example is, some people here in Study Hall jumped right into a communal aspect before nurturing and understanding the whole, solitary aspect of things and, the left-hand path and all of that. Because I feel that might be, it's weird because everyone has a different path, but in regards to that balance, do you find that you have a balance, or is there any advice or anything you can speak to in regards to creating a balance between, that personal Satanism as well as kind of, advancing it towards a more communal or religious aspect?
That's a really good question, Bill. You see, I think for me, I start to look after myself more in my sort of writing and poetry career initially, because what happened was I was sort of involved with a group, and there was someone who was a bit of a mentor or presented himself as a mentor, and it took me a little while to realize he was potentially doing me out with gigs, wasn't giving me the best advice. He was sort of saying one thing but then doing another, and I eventually got to that point where I thought, right, fuck you, I'm not staying under your foot with this. I'm going to go off and do my own thing, and if you don't like it, you get fucked. And it was that attitude that obviously when I reread Satanic Bible, that's finally when, like I say, everything sort of lined up, and I thought, right, I can still be me and still support other people, because even in my writing, yes, I will work alone, but I love to collaborate. I love working on collaboration projects, but at the same time, I've still got a community of other writers and performers that if I know there's a potential gig going off somewhere, I will still send messages out to people saying, hey, just so you know, these people are looking for open mics, these people are looking for headline slots, and just keeping that networking going. So when I come into doing my Satanism, yes, I'm still looking after myself, but I'll still try and signpost. If it's like when TST did when the Grey Faction conference happened the other weekend, I was still saying to people, hey, if you're still interested, there is this. There's the talks. You can go to these, go and see, or I've read this book. I didn't really find anything out of it, but you might enjoy it. It's that sort of thing that I like doing. It's helping to lift others up and not being a teacher, but being a facilitator, supporting people in their journey around and saying, no, this is what you have to do. This is what you need to do. It's saying, hey, look, here's some options. There you go. You make your choice.
I like that. And it kind of drives the whole point home of, I'll help you identify the tools that you need to perform the task and be there by your side. But, the individual has to put in the work in order to yield the results that they expect. No one can do it for them. It's like that whole fucking, teach a man to fish or whatever fucking thing that they talk about. But not well said. And so we talked about your childhood and everything. At what point did you get started with writing and or poetry? Did it start with poetry? How did that whole passion begin?
It started with poetry. And again, I think I was quite fortunate growing up because there was a lot of reading. And I will preempt this with fuck J.K. Rowling, but I grew up at that point where Harry Potter was the in thing. So reading was just everywhere because everybody was reading Harry Potter. So I think like 7, 8 when the first one came out. So I was I read a lot of Harry Potter stuff, read just books, just books everywhere. And I just did little bits of writing here and there. And then I think it got to 2014, 15. Yeah, about 14, 15. And 2014, 2015, I presented my current girlfriend when we were first starting to date. I was like, right, I've written some stuff if you want to have a read, and I didn't really know what to do with it. And she said, well, have you never done any open mic or anything like that? And I thought, no, not really. And she pushed me. She said, look, just go and do one, and if you don't like it, you don't like it. If you do, you do. So like I said, that's 2014, 2015, and 7 years later, I've now got an award-winning show and 2 books out. So,
you did something right.
Something went right.
Now, the award-winning show that you mentioned, is that, they might lead into my next little bullet point here. Was that a reference to Stained?
Yes.
Fantastic.
So the show was Stained, yeah.
So that is a spoken word show. And can you kind of explain what that is? Because I know from my research, it looked like it started building momentum and there were plans to take it further. And then fucking COVID came.
Fucking COVID.
So can you take us on that little Stain journey real quick and let us know a little bit more about how that worked out?
So let's go back to 2018, and I see a post on Facebook for Greater Manchester Fringe. And they said, we're doing this initiative. We got some money from, we have a thing over here called the Arts Council, where money goes in from all different sources and then it gets spread out to support arts in the country. So they said, we've got some money from the Arts Council to develop there were 3 different shows, a stand-up show, a poetry show, and a zoology show. At that point, and I still am now, if you don't know, you don't ask. If you don't take that chance, you're never going to know. So wrote off a rough treatment, sent it off, and they said, brilliant, you're in for the short for the short list. Sorry, the short list for the audition. And so I went to Manchester one night and did 1 poem. We only had like 3 minutes to sort of try and summarize the show. At that point, I actually hadn't written the show, so I had to pull one out from Drunk Text. Did it, and literally 48 hours later, they rang me and said, right, you've won the funding. Fucking awesome. I worked with a dramaturge, a guy called Ben Moore, who is a brilliant comedy writer. He's worked with a lot of the big alternative comedians from the 80s and the 90s in the UK, and Ben really helped me to shape it and to grow the show. We stayed, I'd had the idea actually for a couple of years, but I never knew how to quite implement it. I had this idea around writing around tattoos and body mods, because I think it's just fascinating. It's wonderful, and it intrigues me that humans, that we do this to ourselves. Could never quite figure out how to do it. So Ben did all the drama side of it with me, character journey, A to B, ups, downs, peaks, troughs, emotional beats. A few months later, we wrote I wrote the show. Ben just helped to again, he just guided me. He's like, I would do it this way, but if you want to do it that way, you do it that way. Yeah, the show, as we said in the blurb, that deals with a character called Johnny Deaton, who is opening his debut studio, Low Voltage, and it's Johnny telling his story to it's supposed to be a camera crew, the audience of the camera crew, and he's filming like a little documentary, and we find out Johnny's story through the show. We find out where Johnny's been, where he's going, and all of Johnny's thoughts and feelings around the community, the goods, the bads.
So this is a journey. This is just a journey through
this is Johnny's journey.
A character development show.
Yeah. It was something completely different for me, because the amount of research I had to do for it. I was reaching out to the guys that had tattooed me. I sort of met with them for a couple of coffees, and because I wanted to come into it with the respect and the knowledge that I would get in things right. I didn't want to just write something and then have people involved in that community go, well, there's no fucking idea what he's on about. So they were telling me all these different stories about different clients. They were telling me different slang terms that used in the industry, and they all got wrote in, and I got some amazing feedback. So it debuted at Manchester Fringe in 2019. We did a week run. So, a week living in Manchester, doing the show. We did it 7 times in a week. It was amazing. It was brilliant. Came home. Didn't have anywhere to take it in 2019 because with anything else, when you're booking a show, you have to book 6 months in advance.
You sure do,
yeah. So by the time you got to summer, you've got to have already had it done. But because the show didn't debut while the summer, etc., etc. So all through winter 2019, I'm emailing theatres, I'm emailing just pubs with a back room. We start getting some dates together. 2020 rolls around and
done.
Yeah, just gone overnight. Everything just went. So
now is this any as things progress and hopefully sort of get back to something that resembles what we refer to as a normal? Is that still on the table as far as kind of picking up where you left off?
I really do hope so. As we are sat recording this now, we are easing out of lockdowns in the UK. I'm happy enough to wait. The show's not going anywhere. When it's safe and when we're ready, let's see what happens.
Fuck yeah. Now, you mentioned in the initial spoken word contest that, you kind of, from a prep work standpoint, you kind of threw some things together from a work of yours called Sending a Drunk Text While Sober.
Yes.
How did that work? Now, was there a specific one? Like, was there a go-to piece from that? Now, I'm not going to lie. Now, doing the research, now I tore up The Poet from the Black Lagoon, but I haven't had an opportunity to read this outside of just reading reviews and the stuff that's online. So, can you kind of tell me about that specific experience, and then kind of just what Sending a Drunk Text While Sober is?
Yeah, there's one in there that I knew I could use, and it's called Modern Relics, and it sort of details about when I first used to work at Blockbuster Video back in the day, and sort of like the weird characters that we used to serve on a weekend, these sort of juxtapositions of people. The final, I don't want to say too much because I'm really proud of the poem, but the last line refers to a tattoo artist. So I thought, well, fucking A, right there. I've mentioned a tattoo artist. I've said that this show's going to mention tattoo artist. So the thought that obviously the poem was going to be in the show, and I'm like, no, it's like doing like test footage for a film, and it's you just present something that you think is going to represent the final product, which it did, because it took on a life of its own. But yeah, that's where that one came from. But the book itself, I'm still to this day proud of it. It's just hit its 3rd anniversary, so it's 3 years old this month.
I'm glad you brought that up, because that was another little bullet I was going to get to. I'm like, we just had an anniversary, yes.
Yeah. So the book, I think it chronicles roughly the first 5 years of what we're writing. So there's a lot of love in there. There's a lot of politics in there, which unfortunately, it's kind of dated now, because it refers to prime ministers that we had like 5 years ago. But the way to look at it is it's a time capsule of where we were at that point. There's a lot of humor in it, because at the time I was working in retail. So anyone that's worked in retail, there's something in this book for you, because
say no more.
Fuck anyone that's a dick to anyone that works in customer service.
Yep.
That's all I'll say on that.
Yes, fuck retail.
I couldn't agree more.
It's one of those things. I punted the manuscript around for ages, and I got in touch with Plastic Brain Press, who were in their previous incarnation at that point. But I kept in touch with Richard, who runs it all. Says, I'm revamping everything. We're going to do weird shit, and we're going to call it Plastic Brain Press. And we went from there. And Richard and Mel, if you're listening, hi guys, I love you both, loads and loads and loads. I can't wait till we get to see you again, because it's been weird not seeing them. But yeah, we put the book together, and the photography on the front was done by a friend of mine. We found an alleyway near my work, so just one Saturday afternoon, I finished my shift, got changed, met my girlfriend. She's on the cover with me. She met me. We ran down to this alleyway before it started to absolutely piss it down. We got the shot, sent it off, and we had the cover turned around in about a week. We don't fuck around.
Apparently not.
Now, were you actually ever sent a drunk text while sober? Was there? Well, where did that specific? Because that's a pretty descriptive title there. It seems like it's referring to something very specific. Was there something that happened, or is there a story to that name?
I mean, it's the title poem in the book. It was a combination of where this came from, but I was really inspired. We'd gone to see the musical version of American Idiot a couple of years ago, and seeing the album visually on stage is the bit at the end when what's her name walks past the main character and she just blanks him, carries on, and he's like, "Oh, did I actually see you? I kind of regret what happened," and that sort of stuff. And I'm just like, how can you translate that into? How could I translate that for me? So I was like, oh, imagine having that missed connection or that sort of regret, and that's what the title poem is. It's sort of about regret, but from a fictional standpoint, really. Makes it sound a lot more artsy than what it actually is. I mean, sending a drunk text while sober, I mean, to me, just the phrase, it's because is it that whole thing of, a drunk heart tells a
drunk mind speaks a sober heart.
That's it, Dennis. Thank you very much. That's just what it kind of was. And I was like, oh, well, let's update a little bit. You know, when people send drunk texts, you know, saying something that you want to say when you're drunk, say it while you're sober. It just sounds flashy.
It does. It sounds dangerous. So now we just hit the 3-year anniversary of that. Now, kind of fast forwarding a little bit, we also hit another anniversary recently, I believe, with the poet from the Black Lagoon. Are we close, or have we hit the year mark with that? Or
no, we're approaching the 6 month mark.
The 6 month mark. Okay.
6 month. October 2021 will be his first birthday.
But it's just like you were talking about, Plastic Brain Press also put out the poet from the Black Lagoon, and I would love to read their description because I think it does your work a lot of justice. So from Plastic Brain Press, from B-movie ballads to howling haikus, Widdop's nasty poetry is for all the spooky kids. It's a poetic Ouija board conjuring the spirit of crackling VHS tapes, dodgy tracking, and late-night double features. Award-winning poet Simon Widdop writes and performs poetry that blends a hectic mix of the macabre with a dash of dark humor and a worn sense of pride for his northern roots. The poet from the Black Lagoon also includes haunting illustrations by artist and designer Melody Clark. The poet from the Black Lagoon in the second collection from Simon Widdop, whose first book, Sending a Drunk Text While Sober, was our first publication back in 2018, as Simon just mentioned. Both books, Sending a Drunk Text While Sober and The Poet from the Black Lagoon, are available through Plastic Brain Press, and we'll tell you exactly how to get that at the end or when we wrap things up. So so let's talk about it. This was a journey to read. I think I've gone through it about 3 or 4 times.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm. And I picked stuff up that there were a couple, just like you would read anything, that you resonate with more than others. But then after, the second or third pass, you get to that point where you're like, well, fuck, how did I miss that? Which was nice. Where did this idea come from? Was this just initially a small collection that grew under a theme, or was this kind of all intentional?
If we go back to 2019, 2019. I was made, so just before we went off to do the show, I was made redundant from my retail job. The company I worked for just collapsed, just went. So I got in this really weird thing where I was literally made redundant, and then like 4 weeks later, I went off and did Stained. Coming back home after Stained, I felt really deflated, and sort of mixing that with, I think, the realization that I'd actually been made redundant and the day work was gone. Mentally, I wasn't in a good place. So this is summer 2019. So me and my girlfriend, she decided to help sort of pick me up by, what we did was, we had this thing where on a weekend we did double feature horror movie nights, where I'd pick a horror film that she'd never seen, and she picked one that I'd never seen. And she finally let me watch, because I've never seen it, Poltergeist.
Yes.
Okay.
I was disgusted with myself that I'd left it so long to watch.
So it was
So
the
good.
original. All right, I'm very thankful that you
So
started with the
fucking good.
original.
Sometimes it's better though. Sometimes if you're the last person to see something that exists and then you're experiencing it for the first time. That's how I feel whenever I'm very late to the game
That's
for a
it.
good horror movie.
It's that good catch. It's that catch up and blah, fuck off. Anyway, we watched Poltergeist, and I don't know what happened. Just something clicked, and a couple of nights later, I wrote the first draft of what would become Baby Be My Poltergeist, which obviously is in the book. And I wrote a couple more, and a couple more. And my initial idea was I was going to just sort of make it into a little chat book, little handbook booklet, and just give it to her as a present. I thought I was going to write 4 or 5. And I kept writing. And I kept writing. And I kept writing some more. And before I knew it, basically the book was done, or the initial manuscript got done in about 2 or 3 months. Went off to Plastic Brain Press. I said, look, I'm not in a rush. This is still sort of the back end of 2019. And I'm like, right, I'm not really in a rush, because we're going to go and do Stained. We're going to do Stained next spring 2020. We're going to do Stained. And then I'll see about releasing this afterwards. We'll keep it on the back burner. And then obviously 2020 happened. So keep in contact with Plastic Brain. We said, well, why don't we put this out this year and we'll see what happens with Stained. I knew as soon as I got talking, because I love Mel's artwork. She's a fantastic artist. So I knew I wanted to do something with her. So Mel, I just said, look, go off and do what you need to do. And I want you to design the cover as well. And she says, oh, what sort of vibe are we going for? And I said, well, so that old school, back of the video shop horror film that everyone knows about, but no one will, but it's told in whispers. And that's exactly what she nailed. And a year and a few months on from initially writing that first one, there we go. So I was listening. So we're just watching all these different horror movies. I'd pulled down my old Cannibal Corpse CDs and my Cradle of Filth discography from the loft. I just sat down and listened to all this fucking death metal again, just sort of getting back to where I was when I was 16, and reading the lyrics to "Fucked with a Knife and I Come Blood" and "Amphetamine" and all the good stuff.
Fuck yeah.
Sledgehammer Facelift, and oh yeah.
Just sat there, just like rereading the lyrics and just listening to that music, and I'm like, right, I'm gonna just write horror poetry. Fuck it, because what else? Yes, there's other fantastic horror poets that are out there that have put stuff out, and I just thought, just fuck it, I'm just gonna join that fucking club. Let's just fucking do it, and that's where we ended up with it.
As they say in the invocation, it is done. Hail Satan. Now, one of the things that, with this that caught my attention were the haikus. I don't know. I found myself going back to them more. I don't know if it was, I guess I can't even explain it. But yeah, they're definitely thought-provoking, I guess is the words. So now in the illustrations that accompany the haikus are fantastic. Now, I've got to ask, were did you come across some awesome illustration through the work and partnerships, and then form a haiku based on artwork, or was the artwork based on the haiku?
Mel just went off, and yeah, because we decided to do the illustration after each haiku, because it was obviously the imagery were a lot easier to pair up. So I'd written haikus, and I tried, like, I hit one about, obviously there's one about like a werewolf, there's one about vampires. I just tried to sort of hit that classic monster vibe with them. Gave them to Mel, and she was like, what do you think to these? I'm like, yes, that's the one. I had no issues at my side. She just nailed it, absolutely nailed it.
I mean, one of my favorites here, it's number 6. Pity the undead. Eternity is too long. Time makes you its bitch. It's just fucking great. it's just like as any haiku should be, short, effective,
short and sweet.
That's right. And then the skeleton and the tree, the illustration's just fucking phenomenal. So going back to it, what I mean, outside of the one, you know, what you referenced already, what is the standout? You know, what are you most passionate about?
Fucking hell, that's a good question, because I do love being a poltergeist. I mean, at the Midnight Hop, I managed to do that a couple of times before we got locked down. So at the Midnight Hop's gone down quite well.
Now, have you ever thought of turning that into just like a small little doo-wop tune?
That with the influence behind it, weirdly enough,
reading it, I heard a little something in my head. I mean, it was like, you know, just because we all read it at different paces and metronomes or whatever. Like I was sitting there, I was trying to come up with a tune in my head as I progressed through that.
Yeah, that's what we're doing. I'm writing it, sort of taking that psychobilly, rockabilly kind of feel, you know. You know, just that sort of, that's what we're going with it. So I'm glad you got that.
No, I know Dennis, when we in our production meeting, there was, you know, as we were talking about this, I know Dennis, you've gone through this a few times. Is anything stand out to you? Is there anything that we haven't mentioned so far that might be on your list of favorites?
Yeah, actually, it's actually pretty funny that you asked that question right at this juncture, because at the Midnight Hop was like the one that stood out to me the most. It took me back to like my, you know, teen days, early 20s. I was always down at the, you know, the First Unitarian Church in Philadelphia.
Yes.
Always there, going down, you know, to see either Bane or Terror or someone was coming through. And this, I mean, just reading through this, it set me back to being in there. I don't know, that one really stuck out. You know, you were talking about the haikus. There was a haiku that stuck out about Freddy Krueger and Edward Scissorhands. I thought that was fucking hilarious.
It's an eternal question. You read it right? We won't spoil it, but it's the eternal question.
Yeah, it definitely is. And then there was another one, the flesh paintings. I really like that one. Yeah, that was really cool. Where did you get like the ideas behind that? Because it's kind of like, I mean, there's a line. It says, you know, like the Scream Queen to remember to never be the victim, the Morning Star to remember we are gods, but Skull to remember we are mortal creatures. Like, I don't know. It kind of hit me in a weird way. I loved it.
It's all my tattoos.
Really?
So it's all the different tattoos that I've got. I just sort of sat. I just, you know, sort of meditated on them a little bit and just tried to boil them down to like a bit of a pure essence. So yeah, flesh paintings is about the is just about my tattoos. It's as simple as that.
Wow, that's actually pretty fucking cool.
Yeah, I didn't expect that answer. Like that's fucking great.
That you found something in it, you know, across a vast amount of ocean, and over in Philly that you've still found something in it. It warms this dark heart.
Now you mentioned,
well, that's good.
You mentioned Mr. Ned Stark. earlier when you were talking about, I think it was Mr. Sean Bean living in surrounding areas and whatnot.
Yeah, Sean's.
I got a little bit of a Game of Thrones battle cry vibe with Blue Fire. Almost like someone was just, they were angry. They were pissed, but at the same time trying to make a very valid point. Like, I don't want to spoil it because but I will say like the very final two lines, like, there is beauty where others see hell. Like that, I don't know. I just, how it progressed, I almost viewed it as a small little, motivational fucking, speech given right before a battle. I don't know. It definitely resonated with me. It's one of my favorites.
Right before someone lops your fucking head off. Someone guts you like they did in Braveheart.
Maybe,
Grant, I love
maybe this was what Ned Stark was mumbling before they chopped his fucking head. Maybe he was reciting Blue Fire.
Even as a fellow Yorkshireman, I had still no idea what the fuck he was saying at the end of that.
Absolutely. Our valedictorian, we haven't checked in with you lately. What about you?
I was telling Bill right before you came on, I was impressed with a certain love poem you wrote. You know what I'm talking about?
With me. Let me
mentions a Beatle, member of the Beatles.
Oh shit, from Drunk Text.
Yeah, it's called The Caveman, and I wanted to hate it because I'm not that big a fan of love poetry. It's got to be, something special, obviously. And then you started talking about Lennon, and I hated it even more. But by the end of it, I don't know. This one kind of got to me. It exceeded my expectations. It was creative, and it seemed very genuine. I can't tell you, I went to art school, and there were actually poetry majors, and it was a lot better, frankly, than everything all of them had to put out, especially their love poetry. There was something really, really down to earth and genuine about this one. So I really enjoyed it.
But again, that one, it's as simple as what it is. Obviously, you've read it. The circumstances in that sort of like that first half, that's what happened. It was just weird that those events transpired, and then that sort of second half was me in my head saying, no, this is why I want to keep fighting for it, because I want to do this weird, wonderful thing, and I crave those things that we share.
Yeah, exactly. It's a total relatable moment too. I had a moment later, where you're just like, I don't know, you're fed up and you're done, and then you're like, no, I'm not, and I know I'm not. So yeah.
Now, I do want to, before we move forward, can you let our listeners know how they can find, I know we did kind of tease it with Plastic Brain Press, but can you officially let our listeners know how they can find your work?
Right, okay. So if you want to support the books, if you go to Google and type in Plastic Brain Press, it's the second link down because they've launched a new website. So it's the second link down. You'll find my two books on there. You'll find all the other stuff that Plastic Brain Press has released. They honestly release some amazing, weird, folk horror stuff. There is some very strong feminist work from Melody. Richard's got some fantastic short story collections. Just go and have a look. Support indie artists as much as you can. For me, I've got a YouTube channel. I don't have a personal URL just yet. But if you go to YouTube, type in Simon Widdop Poet, there's some videos on there. There's a couple that are on there that aren't featured in any publications. So call them exclusives, call them what you want. But yeah, that's where you can watch, and that's where you can read.
I do want to go back to some nerdy type questions just around writing and about just what motivates you as a writer and a poet. So, if you were to guess, how many unpublished or half-finished books do you have in your collection?
Fucking hell, at least 1.5. Just anything from a couple of lines that have been scribbled to a couple of stanzas that I've sort of written out, slept on, woke up the next morning and gone, what the fuck is it? No, get rid of it. It's never seen the light of day.
Now, do you keep them though? Like when you say get rid of it, do you get rid of it? Do you get it, or do you tuck it away and revisit it later just for shits and giggles?
It's tucked away because sometimes you can end up going back to them like months, if not years later, and think, actually, I was looking at this topic in the wrong way at that time. I can now look at it this way with the knowledge and the tools that I've got now, and we'll go at it differently. You never know.
Okay, yeah. Do you read your own book reviews?
No.
No. That was nice and fast.
No, I've read the when Stained came out, I read one review, and it was the one I was most nervous about because it was like a proper reviewer that were coming in, and they loved the show, so I slept very well that night. But apart from that, no, the books are out there. People take and leave what they need.
And that's exactly how we approach study hall. So I think that's a magical way to think about it. Like, I mean, every once in a while, I might be able to pull a little bit of improvement out of some hate, but outside of that, nah, pay it no mind. Move forward, do what we do.
Fuck it. If you had to do something different as a child or like a teenager that would have, influenced you into becoming a better writer, or anything of the sort, what would you have done?
I think I would have to say is to maybe write a little bit more, because I did a hell of a lot of reading, and like I say, I'd done sort of some little bits of writing that I never showed anyone that were tucked away. They were locked in the proverbial vault, but I didn't do that well a little bit later. I think I should have been writing a little bit more when I was in high school, just to get a few more techniques down, get a few more kinks out of the machine.
Do you hide any secrets in your books or like Easter eggs?
There's a couple, especially in Poet from the Black Lagoon, because for me it was a love letter to horror and to just camp horror and that sort of schlocky vibe. There'll be bits in there that I hope people pick up. Sending a drunk text while sober, not as much ish. Stained, there is a couple in Stained that people have turned to me afterwards and gone, was that what I think it was? Yeah, it was. You got it. There's things sprinkled. Especially when we live in these pop culture times where everything's got to be interconnected and you've got to leave an Easter egg for the next film 4 films down the line.
That's right. You can't forget about those end credit scenes.
Can't forget about the end credits.
Is there any certain poet that you would say was your most, influential or inspiring to get into your work, or, like something that, like someone that stuck out in that early fucking age?
I think the biggest one, and a lot of, especially Northern poets, will say a man by the name of Dr. John Cooper Clarke, who's from Salford in Manchester, and he's basically known as like the lyrical machine gun. American audiences, you will know him better from, he was featured, and I don't know which episode it was, because I didn't watch it, because I wasn't into the show, but at the end of one of the episodes of The Sopranos, they used the song version of a poem that he wrote called Evidently Chicken Town. I mean, the poem's fucking brutal. It really is. But it was used at the end of one of The Sopranos, and that kind of pushed him to fame a little bit in America. But yeah, Dr. John Cooper Clarke, just going, I mean, if you don't mind, I'll read you the first stanza out of Evidently Chicken Town. It's, the fucking cops are fucking keen to fucking keep it fucking clean. The fucking chiefs are fucking swine who fucking draws a fucking line at fucking fun and fucking games. The fucking kids he fucking blames are nowhere to be fucking found anywhere in Chicken Town. Go and look him up, you'll love him.
I wanna visit Chicken Town.
But yeah, the thing, well, when he recorded it as a song, he had to change it to Bloody. So it's the bloody cops are bloody keen to bloody keep it bloody clean, and it doesn't quite hit as good when you swap.
Right.
Now, Simon, what authors or poets did you maybe dislike at first, but eventually grew into?
Let's have a look.
Holy, she's got a whole fucking list.
I hear pages flipping.
No, right, I am gonna sound so controversial, but when I first got into Edgar Allan Poe, like most goth kids, I read The Raven, and I'm like, oh, this is so deep. Oh God, this is so wonderful. This is so deep. Oh my God, it's so goth. And then again, because this is when I'm like 14, 15, 16, and then I tried reading some of his other stuff like Murders in the Rue Morgue and Pit and the Pendulum and stuff like that. And I was like, why is everyone raving about this guy? Because obviously when you're 14, 15, 16, you're dumb as shit. You don't realise that this was written 200 years ago, like especially like with Shakespeare and stuff like that. But then revisiting Poe later on and realising these fucking iconic stories that he wrote, and he died of fucking pauper, didn't he? He died in a gutter after being beaten up or drugged or whatever it was that happened to him. But this man just wrote short stories, was selling them for nickels and dimes, and everyone else is profiteering off him. Yay, capitalism.
That's an acceptable answer. I don't think that's going to piss off too many people.
Is there any poet and or novelist that you despise to the core of your being? Not that you despise as a person, like his work or her.
Oh,
work.
right.
Oh, thank. Yeah, because I could have just said J.K. Rowling again. No, I don't think there's anyone that I've really read and gone, right, I'm never reading this again. It's just awful. I mean, I probably will say, obviously, the fucking 50 Shades of Grey book. I read like the first one and half of the second one. I'm like, why are people reading this?
Yeah, I don't
so
usually.
Poorly written.
I don't quit novels. But I did quit that one. I think after like page 20, I just threw it against a wall.
The only reason I got through was because of the Gilbert Gottfried audiobook.
Oh.
Yes.
Yeah, but you didn't listen to the whole audiobook, Bill. Like, let's be real.
How do you know?
Because I do. Okay, so do you think poetry as a strictly written medium can survive without additional sensory enhancements such as music, visual art, or dance?
Yes, it can. Because to me, you need to do the written work first before you add stuff in. Poetry needs, yes, it can have all this wonderful music and visual and staging behind it, but at the end of the day, we are going to die. So yes, we now have YouTube, we have recording capabilities, but we're still reading Shakespeare all these hundreds of years later. There's still Beowulf. There's still all these wonderful, like Greek mythology, Roman mythology. All this stuff has survived because it's been written and passed on. So if it doesn't survive on the page, then what is it doing?
Do you think anything that's written in this time singularly will survive as effectively as them, given that I think now we're in a very weird time where everything is sensory out of control and in your face all the time. And, like you said, YouTube is just one thing. And back when Beowulf and Paradise Lost was written, that wasn't on the table. That wasn't on the table for hundreds and hundreds of years. So do you think that anything written today would stand the same kind of chance as things written back then that have survived?
It's a deep one with that, because you look at, and I'm probably going to pronounce the name wrong, that Rupi Kaur, and she basically became famous by posting to Instagram. So personally, I understand what she's doing. She's a new young poet, and I know she's had amazing success in Canada, but when she's writing 3 lines on Instagram and I'm sat there trying to sort of put books together and thinking and writing, and we're coming from 2 different styles, but is she going to be remembered as a trend that happened in 2018, or 20 years down the line when when Instagram starts getting archived or what have you, will people know her as the Instagram poet, or will they look at her poetry collections? Whereas for me, yes, I post stuff. I'll post snippets to Instagram or I'll upload a video to YouTube, but to me, I'm using those to promote the book or the show. Because to me, the again, growing up with so much vinyl in the house, it's all about physical release to me. So I think time's going to have to tell.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a, more interesting and deeper discussion, and it's filled with a lot of statistics. I would prefer the page stay the page. I'm old fashioned, but yeah. So what does literary success look like to you?
For me personally?
Mm-hmm.
For Simon, yes. What is your, I guess, yeah, I mean, how are you gauging your success as a poet, as an artist? Or is it just based on simply personal fulfillment, I guess?
I'm going to get slightly emotionally. I think when it's come in so many specific points for me. So when I first got the contract with Plastic Brain Press, I thought it was like, right, fucking hell, I've now got a writing contract. When I then received the proof copy of the first book, it's like, shit, I have something now. There is something physical. And then we did the book launch. And then that took me up and down the country doing all these different shows, supporting bands, doing some of the big nights over here. And then when we got to then doing the show, I'm like, okay, I've been shortlisted for the show. That's success. I've then won the shortlisting and the show's happening. That's a success. And then I've done a week-long run of the show and it's won the Hive Award. And I'm now booking my one-man show in theatres. That were all success. So I don't think for me there's ever been one big thing. It's been the small steps along the way that I'm proud that I've achieved, because I have achieved those. It's not some fucking secret, the secret bullshit. Oh, be grateful and practice gratitude to the universe. No, I have made this. I have created this with the help from, obviously from photographers and designers and thing. We've come together to make this. This isn't some, I haven't wished it into existence. I fucking knuckled down and I've kept moving forward when I had people saying, oh no, you don't do this, you don't do that. Why are you doing this? Why are you doing that? No, I'm writing what I want to write. Go fuck yourself.
You were forging your own fucking path like that. And
there we go.
That's the way it should be. 110%. And I think that's a great way to gauge success, both whether it's a personal or a professional level. And it's only defined by you. And there's no other way to look at it. Nobody else is going to be able to tell Simon how successful you were, you know what I mean? Or how fulfilled you were. And that's an important thing for everybody to realize. No one gets the opportunity to define your worth, or, you know what I mean? Or your level of success based on whatever scale they're bringing to the table. But enough of that mushy fucking motivational shit. Simon, I know it's getting late here. We're getting close to the 2-hour mark here in your visit to Satanic Study Hall. I guess what I'll do before I pass it off to my degenerate friends here is there anything that we haven't discussed that you wanted to bring to light, talk about, plug, promote, that just hasn't happened to come up? I kind of want to just give you the opportunity to bring anything up, whether it's a special thanks or just any last minute stuff that might come to mind.
No, there's nothing really major at the moment. We covered Plastic Brain Press. Like I say, just anyone that's listening that's followed my work, that's bought Send a Drunk text or bought Black Lagoon or bought both, honestly, thank you so much, especially in this last year when things have been incredibly difficult and incredibly fucking weird, and we're living in this weird time. It means a hell of a lot that people have bought and appreciate art that has been created in a small town in the middle of the north of England, and it's reaching out there across the fucking world.
Reaching the fucking world, yeah, and it sure is. Having you in study hall has been awesome, long overdue, and we look forward to doing it again sooner than later. So Dennis, Veronica, anybody want to jump in with any last minute Jerry Springer final thoughts here?
That's not very Springer-like, but no, just thanks so much, Simon, for coming. Thanks so much for talking about your work and books. I'm not just a normal novel reader. I like poetry too, and this was a treat. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
No, like everybody else said, yes. Thanks for coming on, man. It was definitely long overdue, especially with everything and scheduling. But it's always been a blast talking to you over social media. It's finally good to have you, face to face now, or as face to face as we can be across the pond. Yeah.
All right. Well, once
thank
again,
you, man.
Yes, thank you so much, Simon. And once again, for our listeners, if you want to check out Simon, upcoming appearances as COVID restrictions get pulled out, you can check him out on social media, or just to learn more about him, simonwiddop.com. That's simonwiddop.com. There you'll find more information and materials as to everything that we talked about today in class. Some cool media pictures and some promo photos, and it looks like Simon in action in some of the spoken word, and
nothing better than an action shot.
Yes, absolutely. Some of his stained work is on here, it looks like, but definitely check that out. So nothing else left to say other than hail Satan, Simon, and to my friends here, thank you for being here, and we look forward to having you back in class soon.
Thank you so much for having me, guys. I love this. May Satanic Study Hall live long and
fuck it, say it. Live long and prosper. That's right. Live long and fucking prosper.
There we go.
There we go. I hail Satan.
On the cliche.